The Dolphin will be most likely the most popular BYD vehicle in Europe, at least for now, because it's so small and cheap, and it has a really good range, and it has all of the BYD tech in it, like the lithium iron phosphate batteries that are really, really safe, and they can take the penetration test and they can happily sit at 100% charge, and they're really, really safe batteries. So the BYD Dolphin will probably do really, really well in Europe. Hi everyone, great to see you here again. Welcome to the channel. I'm Ben Alexander. If you're new here, please remember to subscribe because I make videos every day. So if you're keen to stay up to date with the latest electric vehicle news around the world, then subscribe. Thanks to everybody who joined on Patreon and everybody who bought me a coffee in the last month or two. It's much appreciated. I'm trying to make this my day job so I can do this every day and really spend the necessary amount of time to really get past the surface mainstream media news that's getting, that sort of people are giving electric vehicles, and really get to the truth and really get to the heart of what's going on underneath. So initially the cars will be released in Norway and a couple of other countries in Europe, and then they will expand the car sales to Italy, Iceland, Portugal, and Finland, and Ireland. And that will be in the second quarter of 2023, so in the next couple of months. So the way that BYD do it is they have lots of places, locations like shopping malls, and they rent little shops and little units in industrial parks, and you can go and see the cars and test drive them. Sometimes you can test drive them, unless it's like the Atto 3 here in Brisbane in Queensland, and there's too much demand. You literally can't test drive one unless you order one and give them $1,000. Anyway, they're hoping initially to have 200 points where you can go buy one in person and have a look at them, and then by the end of the year that hopefully will go up to 500. That is what they've said. By the end of 2024, I should say, not 2023. To give you an idea of the size of BYD, they sold last year almost entirely in China 1.86 million vehicles, which is quite a bit more than Tesla, which I think sold 1.1 or 1.2 million last year, I think. Out of 1.86 million cars, 4,000 were in Europe, so almost none. I've seen them, and I've stared at the paint and the spot welds, and I've played with the handles. I've been underneath the car and had a look. I've really, really stared at them, and from what I can see, they are made pretty much just as well as something like a Ford. They're comparable to a Ford. I'm not saying they're as good or better or worse, but comparable to a Ford or a Jeep or a Fiat, something like that, I think. They drive really, really well, and they look beautiful, and the quality of work and the paint and the finish and just the whole feel and the look is really nice. But they're only just coming to Europe, so if you haven't considered it because you haven't seen them on the roads and you haven't heard of them, it is worth, if you can, just booking a test drive and going and having a look, I think. But it will basically be a nice car. I don't think it's probably going to be better than you think, probably just a really nice experience. But it is meant to be a bit of a budget car. It's a bit of a budget option. It's not a really flash, fancy Bentley, for example. So that's kind of why. It's comfortable, it's new, looks really nice, and it has electric tech from one of the best countries in the world. If you aren't sure, if you're new to BYD, check out another video. I'll put it in the description below, where I talk about the technology that they use and the quality of the cars that they produce, and the history, because it is an old company now. It has been around for many years and has made lots of cars that I would say are actually just really beautiful, but it's just not a very common brand, because I think in America and Australia and in England or the UK, we're used to things like Volkswagen, Ford, Tesla maybe these days, Audi, Mercedes, Nissan. It's kind of always been these legacy brands, but now it's kind of that's changing, at least in certain parts of the world. That's changing for sure. BYD use their own technology for their batteries, so they produce their own chemistry and batteries, and they put them in their own cars, which is a really good thing. And the LFP, lithium iron phosphate batteries, are also used now by Tesla in their new cars, and other manufacturers like Ford, they want to use lithium iron phosphate chemistry. So if you just quickly Google it, you'll notice that lithium iron phosphate batteries are known to be super safe relative to the standard lithium ion batteries. So lithium iron phosphate batteries are quite happy to sit at a 100% charge. In the tests, I think they've charged them up to 360%. They've sat them in a furnace at 2,500 degrees Celsius, or is it the other way around? 2,500, 260%, 360 degrees Celsius, something crazy numbers. And they've penetrated the battery with a nail. They've bent them, they've ran them over with a truck, and nothing happens. They're really safe. So that's kind of why people are preferencing BYD's, or actually that chemistry, but BYD chemistry is kind of is seen as really good. The BYD Dolphin and the BYD Seal will be available from June and September this year, respectively. So you can go and have a look and test drive them. My opinion of BYD as a company has grown a lot in the last year. I didn't used to know too much about them, obviously, because it's not a very well-known brand in the places I've lived and where I come from. But it is now it is definitely on the global stage because of this transition to electric vehicles. So I was very curious to know what's the quality like, and kind of like I've said, I have been on my hands and knees. I've looked at all the bolts and really stared at the spot welds and everything, and I've played with the handles, pressed all the switches. As far as I can see, it's comparable to a Ford or a Jeep or a Fiat or something like that. It is a proper car. It's not what you might fear when people talk about buying a Chinese car, which I know years ago was a bit iffy. People wouldn't really want to buy a Chinese car. I think you can, maybe if you, I don't know whereabouts in the world you are, but if you remember this SsangYong brand, they look terrible. I get it. So as someone who loves Toyota, I get it. But they do seem really good, and I would genuinely consider going to buy one. I hope this video is interesting or has helped you. If you have any thoughts or any input, please put it in the comments below, because other people see those comments and like them and reply to you. And it's really nice. And I read the comments too, and I reply to people. So if you've ever been in a BYD, or you've got any concerns or any experience or any knowledge or anything that I haven't mentioned in this video, put it in the comments below, because there are people literally that want to know. So it's a really good space, the comments section. Most of the comments are really nice and pleasant on my videos, which is really nice. People generally tend not to give their opinion on brands, and that's okay, but BYD is a new brand, so there'll be people looking to see what other people think of it. So if you've got experience, or if you own one, or if you've test driven one, it doesn't matter where you are, just put it in the comments. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to keep up to date with the new, on the latest news from electric vehicles around the world.